to JAPEC Community Life Magazine Township News 1. Today we're going to be looking at a gentleman right here in Groveland, Florida, who is running for City Council. We're going to do two things today. We're going to have an exclusive interview with him, and then of course we're going to look at some of the things he's been involved in at the City Council meetings. So, as always, remember, we always do the person who, an accuser, the accused, and then we fact check. And that creates more for people to get a clear understanding on what's going on. So let's get ready to begin right now. Thank you.
Constituting public requests, because a lot of the ridiculous requests that's been going on, requesting people's personal information, is out of order. And no court of law is even going to allow that to go through. So with regards to people turning over stuff, I'm going to see if the documents that I've requested from certain individuals in this room that have the nerve to ask those questions, to see if they turn in their documents. Number two, Ms. Carter, I asked you at the last meeting to provide me with the policy on social media, and you told me you would get back with me, and you have not done that. Do you have an answer for me?
Mr. Mayor, for the record and the audio recorder, I have documented proof. I have proof. I have proof. I have proof that Mr. Walker has used Christopher Lewis as an alias. I have proof. I have proof. This is my First Amendment rights. He said that Mr. Wilson should know that he's Christopher Lewis. Eject him. Eject him. Eject him.
Let me show you my ID.
I have a criminal record that he has used as an alias, Christopher Lewis. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Mr. Wilson.
I just want the record to show that I have documented proof that in the past, Christopher Walker has used Christopher Lewis. And he has a criminal record under the name of Christopher Lewis. So when I mentioned Christopher Lewis, this is documented proof. And I have that proof. And he's always up there saying, you have to show proof. I have the proof. I just want the record to be set straight. It's Christopher Walker, or it's Christopher Lewis, or it's Christopher Lewis Walker. Thank you.
Thank you.
Walker Chair Lakes, obviously he doesn't know the law, because you can vote on something to be tabled and you are still the mayor. It is not Mr. Rosario's job to prove his rights, that he had his rights. It is his accuser's job to provide written documentation from an official that he has lost his rights. 8 days over Christmas holiday, Mr. Rossi, is not enough time for anyone to get their legal information together. This is simply
Community Life Magazine Township News and All Nations TV. We're here today with Mr. Walker, who is running for City Council down in Groveland. We're going to try to get some information on it, and then of course, as always, knowledge is power. Mr. Walker, I'd like to know from you, what district are you running for first?
Well, I'm running for District 4 in the city of Groveland.
Okay, and by being running for council, as always, what do you know about District 4?
Well, District 4 is one of the largest districts in the city of Groveland, and it comprises of Waterside Point through the west side of 50 all the way to the east side of 27 near Trilogy in the Cherry Lakes corridor.
Now, what do you find, because you are running, and I always say people have knowledge, what do you find is the biggest issue of that district and why you want to step up the plate?
This issue in the district is that, one, we have one of the highest water rates in the city. Also, we have a lack of parks. There has been a promise by the city council to produce a city park and a school in that area, and we've recently learned that, one, the school will not be built, and we are also probably about 5 years behind on the park. And so a lot of residents are concerned that they're not getting what they were promised.
Okay, and if they're not getting what they're promised, Is that one of the reasons you're stepping up to bat now?
That's one of the reasons, but not the main reason.
And let me ask you this, what is the main reason?
Well, the main reason is that I've been attending city council meetings for a couple of years. I've lived here for about 14 years, and I've seen the constant battle of personality conflicts, collusion and corruption in our city. And I think it's just time that we move Groveland forward with some leaders that want to unify for the benefit of the citizens and not just their personal agendas.
Okay. Now that we know your mission, as always, what, if you are elected, what level are you taking Groveland to? How would you actually work with those who are there? Because apparently that's one of the biggest issues that is out today.
Right.
Bringing the council together in order to get something done.
Right.
So how would you, as councilman, bring that change about?
Doing for years, which is to bring unity among those who are leading. Those who are leading, if they're not unified, then we simply cannot push a vision because there's division. And so we've got to unify, we've got our reason together, so to speak. And so that's one of the first things that I would do. And then I would look at what is the citizens actually wanting? What have they been asking for? What have we been ignoring that we have not dealt with? There's a lot of issues that are on the table that we have simply been kind of rubbing over and just kind of, you know, we haven't done a whole lot of things that we have told the citizens that we were going to do. You know, these are great ideas, but when you don't implement what you promise, then the citizens don't have that trust factor. And so the second thing I would do is to make sure that we bridge the trust level back to the residents, that the residents can trust those that they elect. Because right now there's not much of a trust level with the citizens to the leadership. And we need to be able to, leadership should be able to listen to the citizens and give them a seat at the table so that we can do what those who elected us to do, we can at least help fulfill some of those things that they're desiring for their own city.
Okay, now let me ask you this. There has been some outbursts at the city hall meetings. Some things hurled at you. And of course we have the video, we'll be taking a look at that in a minute. But where you got called out on a record. Now explain to me, as always, knowledge. What were they talking about, you having a criminal record? Right. And then of course, number A, part of that question is the change of name. Right. So whichever you want.
Well, yes, there was a person who came to a city council meeting and began to question why my last name was different in the past, and also about a criminal background. Well, first of all, that criminal background is 18 years ago. I was driving on a suspended license, so I didn't kill anybody, didn't rob a bank, but I did something that was dumb. I drove on a suspended license, and back then I was a single parent of two boys. I left my house one day rushing to get my kids to my grandmother's house, and I left without my driver's license, my insurance card. I lived in a bad neighborhood at that time, so I had my tag in the back of my window. So when I was pulled over for speeding, the officer gave me 6 tickets. He gave me a ticket for my tag. He gave me a ticket for not having my driver's license. He gave me a ticket for not having my insurance card. He gave me a ticket for the tag being in the window and not on the back of the car. And he gave me a ticket for each one of my kids that were not in their seatbelt. I put them in their seatbelt, but of course, they crawled out of it. Now, if you know anything about the license system, when you get a ticket, there's points assessed. And because I received 6 in one day, all of those points calculated up and took me into the suspension category.
Now, how many years ago was this?
18.
18. Okay, so that's basically in the past either way, and you have your voting and all of that, correct?
I have all of my rights in the state of Florida. I have a safe driving record that is on my license right now.
Okay, now let's get into the outbursts. So if that was the criminal, and then of course the change of name.
Change of name, glad you asked that question. The change of name, when I was arrested for driving with a suspended license, my name was Christopher Lewis because that is my birth name. My mother's maiden name is Carolyn Hayes Lewis. My father is Kenneth Walker. And I've always desired to have my father's last name. So I simply not only changed my last name, I changed my children's last name so that we all could reflect and carry my father's name. So I didn't change my name because I went, to jail for driving a suspended license. I simply changed my name because I had the right to.
Okay, all right. Now let me ask you this question. Since you are running for politics this year, now as always we get people say things to me and we try to follow up on them. The issue of you taking a sign down at last election, what was that issue about? Because of course it was on YouTube and several other places.
Right.
And if you look at the video, you did take a sign down. So explain to me what was going on.
Last year, during the 2016 election, there was a gentleman that was in our neighborhood passing out white bags. Now, I didn't know what was in these white bags, but he was passing out white bags, and I simply told him this is a no solicitation neighborhood. And he proceeded to tell me that he had the right to do it, and I proceeded to tell him that you don't live here, so therefore you don't understand this is a no solicitation neighborhood. So I simply went to those 4 doors, took the bags off of the doors, and walked towards him, letting him know that he took his phone out and started recording me. And I said to him, I'm glad you're recording me because I'm telling you on camera that this is a no solicitation neighborhood. And so I got in my car, as you can see in the video, and I drove off. Now, later on that day, I was contacted by Channel 9 News and even placed on Channel 9 News at 5 o'clock that I potentially was being investigated for stealing political material. We later find out that that is not the case. It was a false investigation by the opponent that I'm running against right now. It was her husband at the time, and actually her family, her entire family launched that against me. But I later found out that there was never ever an investigation as I went to the police department and asked them, is there an investigation against me? And the police chief assured me that not only was there not an investigation, there never had been one. And so here lies again that we have these same people for 10 years who have used bully politics to try and silence those who are speaking out on behalf of the citizens.
So let me ask you this. Which police department did you go to? Because I'm going to, of course, as always, we fact check and try to get the information. And after every segment, we try to have that. What police department did you go to?
I went to the city of Groveland because that's where Channel 9 said that they had called and were told.
And who was the chief at that time?
The chief at that time was an intern chief, Chief English. Todd English was the intern at that time. And so I called the police department, and when I first called, the detective said, we have never heard of your name and there's nothing on you. When I called the second time, someone else said, well, yeah, there's been an inquiry, but it's beyond our scope, and so we're going to send it up to the state attorney's office. Well, I later learned that that never happened because that same officer who told me that they were sending something to the state attorney's office has recently resigned and has a pending lawsuit against the police department right now. Okay. And so a lot of this basically was false and orchestrated.
Now, putting aside all of that, the issues, how are you going to be part of, we already know that there is an issue down in Groveland as far as you guys communicating. Whoever's on the city council, 2-1, 3-1, doesn't matter. How do you feel in the impact of now, how you're going to help settle the issue with George Rosario?
Well, as far as Mayor Rosario is concerned, I don't believe that that is necessarily the council's job. The governor of Florida, that is his position to remove elected officials. This is why the council is split on this decision, because 2 of them realize that legally it is not their job to tell a sitting elected official that they can vote him off. They can't do that. So the governor has that position. So my position on this is, if Mayor Rosario situation is resolved and he can be the mayor, then we will move forward. If the legal system or the governor says that Mayor Rosario needs to step down, then he will need to step down and we will move forward with a new mayor.
So either way, your decision is to find out what's correct.
Exactly.
Okay, so let me ask you this, and this is something that other people knew I was going to interview you because I let people know. Would you bring back Redmond?
No.
No. Okay, and there's no hope or anything of that. What would you do as far as the city manager? Because let's talk about the main issues. We already dealt with the council. One of the issues is the city manager. So far, you guys been through what? 3 of them now?
3.
Whether they was assistant or acting, it's still a city manager job.
Right.
How are you going to settle that?
Well, I think what we need to do is really do a search for someone that is outside of the city. I think the problem that Groveland has had is that we had an internal conflict because we have the same people that have been there for so long, and you have outside influences that have been influencing those that have come and gone. And so I think what we need to do is really look at bringing someone in who is not from Groveland, but who's willing to move to Groveland and be that change that we need. Sometimes you've got to change the slate in order to get a new...
Answer this, you've done that. They've done it. Redmond wasn't from here, correct?
He was
So how do you, and I'm going to say this from the taxpayer's point of view, they got to flip the bill on this again. So how much did it cost, or do you know a roundabout figure on what it cost to get Redmond here? And then of course he brought Lucas here, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so how much, did the city pay for Lucas or did they just pay for Redmond? Is that what you're saying?
Well,
the assistant takes care of itself, y'all just take care of the manager.
Right. Well, Redmond was hired by the city to be the city manager, and his job is to hire other employees.
So let's just work with city manager because that's the biggest issue.
Right.
Y'all going to pay for them to relocate again, am I correct?
Well,
or is that something you're going to vote on?
Normally, if that is what the council unanimously vote on, then yes, they would vote to move someone in. Unless we can find a qualified person in Lake County, then we'll find someone in Lake County.
Okay. Now, the other thing I want to ask you, since you are going to be on that council, let's say you win, how are you, again, it leads us back down, and we know it's always, let's call it what it is, divided, some kind of way. If you still haven't settled the mayor issue by the time November get here, and it goes back to 2-on-2, how are you now going to work this thing out to make sure that we're moving forward, or that Groveland is moving forward? Is it some methods that you're going to have? What are you going to do to get this done? Because let's face it, for 2 years, it's not been nothing but fighting.
Right. Well, I think what we need to do is look into the legal means that we have to resolve this issue. There's been a lot of fighting and personal conflict on the council, and I think it's time for someone to have common sense, accountability, and look into it legally. What can we do to resolve this? If the council needs to go to the governor's office and demand that this issue be resolved, then that's what we need to do. If the citizens need to...
Suppose they're not going to settle. Suppose on the books they say, you know what, Groveland, we've got a lot of other stuff. Let's see if they can work it out, and we're just going to try to get to it. It may not get done until next election. Let's say that's the scenario. How are you going to work with the others on that city council?
Well, the only way that you're going to be able to work with a divided council is that you have a conversation with the side that's divided. And that's the only thing you can do. Now, if the other side, if you have a conversation with them and they don't want to bend on their side, then you're going to have a divided council until you have a mayor.
So there's no way, and this is what I'm about. As I said earlier, if you get the seat, you're going for what? Current seat? Is that the district?
Yes, District 4.
Let's say you win that. How are you? Is there a change? Is there an open conversation? Is it something you need to pull everybody to and say enough is enough? Are you going to have a meeting and just say, look, let the city council sit down here, let's all of us iron out everything?
I think we probably need to have a meeting without the public. Have a shade meeting or some kind of personal meeting that says, look guys, we've gone down this rabbit hole too long. We need to get this city moving in the right direction, and we've got to put our personal feelings aside. You know, sometimes you just have to bend and put your personal feelings aside so that something can get done. And that's where Groveland is right now. Groveland is at an economic standstill because we have a divided council and we have no mayor, and every 2 years we're having new people come in, which makes it more difficult to even get something really done because you have various personalities that come in.
Well, here's the thing. This is one of the biggest issues. The biggest issue isn't whether or not you get another mayor to me or city manager. It's getting one, becoming one. So that's why I ask you those questions, because you still got to figure out how you're going to work with the other city council members who are there, what you need to do. Are you going to walk in and say, look, let's start trying to work together now. Let's see what we can do. A closed meeting or whatever you have to do where you say, you know what we're going to do? I'm going to have a dinner just for the council people. We're going to eat and talk.
Right.
How, you know, that's what I'm asking. Your plan. How are you going to bring it together? Because if not, 4 years from the day y'all still in the rabbit hole, nothing has been signed.
Right.
Now there's a chance that the mayor's seat won't even be done until next year. Maybe they won't bother with it because maybe it's not even on them.
Right.
Maybe they feel inside it's the city's thing. Why am I stepping in? I don't know. Or they may take it.
Right.
But it's been going on for months now.
Right.
After a while, y'all gonna be a year.
Right. Well, I think if the state of Florida doesn't step in, then, as you say, the council is going to need to have a, what I say, come to Jesus meeting, and just say, look, this is what we need to do for the benefit of the city. It has nothing to do with our personal feelings. Let's move the city forward and let's work together, because if we can't do that, the city can't move forward. And so in my job I have now, my job is to bring people together and unify them for the sake of what we do here. And I think we need to do the same thing in the city of Groveland, which is to come together and say,
Hi, this is Minister George Carter, the New Christian Man. For inspiration, you can download this app on All Nations TV. And remember, praise Him.
And I'm telling the truth, brother.
Back, we're here with Mr. Walker now, who's running for council. We want to finish getting the information from him on why he's doing it. And then also the question that I did ask you concerning the mayor. So, and I understand that people are working on all sides to resolve this. I don't think nobody's sitting back waiting. But if this turns out to be a position that none of the courts want to get involved with because they feel it's not them, then what is going to be y'all? Y'all may not have a mayor for another year.
that would not be good, and I think at that point it would be up to the citizens to make their voice be heard to the government of Florida, the governor's office, as well as the council, that they want this resolved so our city can move on. At that point, if this council can agree and the governor's office don't want to get involved and the court systems don't make a decision, then it's the citizens, the taxpayers who are funding this legal battle should voice their concern, and a petition should be drawn to move this thing forward.
The reason why I ask you these questions, because being on the city council, people run all the time, but they need to understand why you have to have a city council, number one, and number two, the decisions you need to know before you go run and don't have a clue what's going on. Knowledge is power, as always. If that doesn't happen, you don't get it, they don't get involved, y'all got to come to a vote, because that's what it's going to wind up, perhaps, going down that road. If it's still 2-2, now what? This could get dragged on to next year. How would you resolve it if it's still 2-2? Because you still got to move forward. 2 want them, 2 don't want them. Period. Let's call it what it is. How do you resolve it? Do you now say another vote? Then you're going to have taxpayers' money coming out. Do you have something where Mr. Rosario got to come forward and we find out what information he got? But how are you going to fix your number one problem? You see, 2 on 2 doesn't make which way the ball goes. And every issue, if one side don't like the other side, you got still 2 on 2.
Well,
Nothing getting done.
well, to my understanding, it is only the governor's office that has the power, or the legal courts that have the power to remove an elected official. The council does not have that right. This is why the council did not take the vote.
Okay, we understand all the logistics. Don't get me wrong, but you're still here now. I'm asking you, how are you going to resolve it as a new council person? Because it's going to come before you.
Right.
If ain't nothing happened all of these months, I guarantee you, I don't believe in my heart anything going to happen until November.
Right.
So if you're sitting there and you got to do that 2 on 2 or 3 to 1 or however y'all going to do it down there, how are you now still again going to resolve the issue if 2 want them in, 2 don't want them in? Help me, because you still got to go to the courts, and if they don't want to fool with it this year and put you on the back pedal, you've been on the back pedal since when?
Right.
December? January? Right. I don't see anything. 6 months gone by.
Well, again, if the courts doesn't want to deal with it,
maybe they won't say anything.
and the courts doesn't want to say anything, then that is when the council is going to have to sit down and try to come to a unified decision. And again, even if we unify, the council does not legally have the right to vote the mayor out. That's what everybody don't understand. We just can't do that. No council can do that. It's the governors. So again, the power goes back to the people. The people must petition the city and the governor's office to make a resolution. It is the people. It goes back. So my job is to rally the people to go and make sure the governor's office and the council make a decision on this so we can move the city forward. Because if the city don't speak out, the citizens don't speak out, then you're going to have a council going back and forth. The most powerful voice in the city is not the council. The most powerful voice in the city is the citizens and the taxpayers.
So now let's say that's resolved. Whether or not y'all, the governor say he can't, then of course I guess the procedure is a new election.
Yes.
Okay, and of course it's going to cost the taxpayer again, correct?
Absolutely.
All right. Now, you being a council person, let's talk about some of the council issues. When it comes to decisions, how are you with compromising and how are you with trying to make the best out of it?
Well, you have to look at every situation, first of all, to see what's going to benefit the city of Groveland and its citizens. At the top of every agenda should be, how is this going to benefit the city of Groveland? And every now and then, sometimes you have to make a compromise, as long as it is a compromise that is going to move the city forward and not keep it in a stalemate. Because all council are not going to agree on everything.
There's a quote that always comes to mind when I meet. What's the difference between a statesman and a council person? Napoleon once said, when asked the lack of great statesmen, to get power, you need to display absolute pettiness. To exercise power, you need to show true greatness. How would you feel with that quote, and where are you at with that?
Well, you know, a councilman is one that represents the citizens. A statesman is one that represents a much larger, broader position. And so it's just two different people. So.
Okay, and what about the rest of the quote, to get power? Where do you find yourself at?
Well, every council person should be empowered by the people.
Okay. So, as I said, to get power, you must show absolute pettiness. To exercise the power, show true greatness. I was asking you, where were you at in that quote, where you're at? Are you, in other words, are you for the people or are you petty?
No,
because that's what we're seeing all over the United States.
Right.
It's called pettiness.
Right.
So if someone says something to you, are you going to turn around and try to go back, or are you going to shoot for the greater good?
No, it always should be for the greater good. My job as an elected official is no different from the job I have now. What do the people need?
Okay. Now, let's go back to this. There has been some outbursts of you. There's been some things done, and of course, lately we see a difference in your attitude and the positions that you've taken. Now, let's say you don't win. Are you still going to fight for the people of Groveland, win-loss?
Absolutely.
So you're not going to be one of those who ran and then don't show up no more.
But I wasn't interested in politics, I was there. When I had no clue that I was going to run, I was speaking out. I spoke out for those who were here, I spoke out for those who were not here, and I spoke out for those that I believe was being done wrong. And so me winning or not winning is not going to change my position in speaking out. If I don't win, I'll be at the council meeting twice a month.
Make sure y'all remember that twice a month.
Voicing my opinion as other citizens in Groveland should be doing as well. Because if we don't speak out, then everybody thinks that what they're doing is okay.
Now, if you do become council people, everybody will be able to contact you, I gather, in that district. And let me ask you this, because knowledge is power. You have a lot of councilmen who've gotten on the job and don't know the job.
Right.
What is the job to you?
The job to me is to make sure that those that elect me are being benefited, that the dream of the city that they want is being executed by the person that they put in that position, that person finds every avenue of resources that is going to benefit not only his district or her district, but the entire city of Groveland. So that's my job. And so one of the things I think that we should do differently is be more transparent and have more communication. I don't understand why we don't have a city newsletter. So one of the things that I'm going to do is not only I'm going to put together a newsletter for my district where you can hear directly from me every month, and also every time we have a council meeting, the next day you will get a video from me on my Facebook page telling you what happened in the meeting and informing you of what's going on. So I'm going to be a little bit more communicative with the citizens that elect me so that they know what's going on, because what's been going on lately is that people only find out stuff when it hits the news. And so people don't like, looking at the news saying, what is going on in Groveland? It's because there's no communication, there's no city newsletter, there's no way to communicate with people. And yes, they do put it on the city's website, but everybody doesn't go to the city's website. Some people don't have a computer, they don't have time for a computer, and so therefore we need to find other means to communicate to those.
That's why Township News is coming about. Now, I don't have a problem, win, lose, or draw, that you come on Township News and talk about what's going on in Groveland. Even in the small towns in Florida, across the United States, we're connecting with a lot of them in different states to create something that small towns literally have more than 15 seconds on TV, because most of the big media, they got a lot of other stories. We want to create something where we're throwing 30 minutes to an hour on a subject, and people can get there and have their say-so.
Right.
So we're going to do that anyway. And whether or not you win or lose, you're more than welcome to do an editorial on ours or talk about what's going on and come in and then work with us. And that goes for anybody out there. But here's the facts. There's a huge issue. 2 years city manager, now you're going up on a year with the mayor. Now let's get back to the other thing, the subject. Your job. If someone asks you, what is your job? We understand that you gotta fight for the people in your district. What does that job detail? A lot of people getting in positions and they ain't got a clue what all of it details. When I started on this journey that I'm doing, I didn't realize it was going to be so much out here. But now we got to produce shows, we got to get involved, we got to know how to edit and all of that. What is your job besides seeing with the people, the decisions? What is a bill? What is a policy? There's a lot of them sitting in these chairs that don't even know that the policy becomes the law or order.
Right.
What do you know that makes you separate from any other candidate? Let's break it down. What is the job to you? What's the job to you?
Well, number one, I think we need to talk more to the citizens and find out where their heart is. A lot of times people get elected, and even before election, they don't talk to the people. And certainly after they get elected, the people have never seen them. I plan to get to all the HOA meetings in my district, meet the presidents, speak at the HOA meeting so I can meet the residents, set up a meet and greet at each community that represents District 4 so that I can hear the heart of the people, and then also attend the trainings that I believe that we need more training for our council people. Our council people need to understand the laws and the government of the city a little bit more, And so that's going to be one of my missions, to make sure that we get more training and that we understand what our job is and how to get funding, how to make sure a park doesn't just become a conversation, but a reality for those that we made the promise to.
So better yet, you got the business aspect of this entire job, because it's not just showing up at a city meeting
and making a vote.
It's not just going out here to neighborhoods and speaking to people, but there's a job there. And that's what I need. Anybody else I interview, I want you to tell me the job. What does the job in detail? From going out speaking with people, from being at the city hall meetings, and then understanding what a policy is and what the councilman's job is, and how to write one, how to bring a bill to it. So that's why I asked you, what was your main intake? How much knowledge did you have involved in becoming a councilman? Because I think it's taken lightly and everybody think they can run, and then you run into this problem. Now, another thing, should feelings of hatred, bigotry, name calling and everything be left outside of the city hall?
Absolutely.
So when you cross that threshold of the door, it should be business for the people.
Absolutely.
Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Okay, so in that being said, has it been done?
No, it hasn't. No, I've been to a lot of city council meetings.
And we're not calling no names.
Right. I've been to a lot of city council meetings where people have gotten to the podium and literally called people names. They've called the mayor names. They've called the vice mayor names. And council have called each other names. And so it's really ridiculous for the public to sit there. And I think that was one of the reasons that made me so passionate about speaking out. And sometimes it was so obnoxious that I got overly passionate, you know, and got caught up in the scene as well. But then I quickly realized, in order to make change, you cannot be what everyone else is being.
Now, of course, I have a daughter and I have a son, but here's the facts. I'm a man, but at the same token, if I'm wrong, I'm quick to go to that person and apologize. If you get out of line up there and you say something that's not becoming of that scene, are you the kind that will pull that person to the side or publicly apologize and say, I'm sorry for calling your name, or I'm sorry because the facts didn't add up? No matter if the person who you're fighting for is a friend, no matter who they are to you, can you put that to the side?
Absolutely.
And move forward.
I am the kind of person, and I've done it in my personal life, I've done it at my ministry. If I am wrong, I will not only apologize to that person, but I'm not too big that I can't apologize openly.
Because that's something that I think needs. Groveland needs leaders. Okay, not saying the ones they got in there, but you gotta leave your feelings. Check it at the door.
You know, because I've even tried to do that. There are people who are very adamant about who they are and what they do behind the scenes, and I've tried to, and I personally, I have emails to prove, I've contacted those people, and I've said, you know, can we have a sit down? Can we just, you know, talk and just move forward for the sake of the city? And I was basically told no. I was told no.
Okay. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to fact check all this information, get it the paperwork, and then after this section, we'll do an editorial from JAPEC and Township News 1, and then check his paperwork, make sure he does have all the proper paperwork together. And then that way we can go forward with this. We wish him the best of luck, but we will look forward to interviewing him again and following him on the trail of trying to become the council person or councilman that's going to try to make a difference down there. It's much needed. But it's also communications.
Absolutely.
I may hate your guts, but if I got to work with you, I'm going to check the hate at the door. And so far, I'm running into people and I interview them and I ask them, what does it take? They don't have that same thing to say, you know what? I'm going to work with you for the betterment. I'm taking me out of it. So now I'm going to work directly with you for the betterment of the people. Now, something else. You got neighborhoods around there. Around Groveland, not just yours, but there are other neighborhoods. Have you been in any of them yet to look around some of the other neighborhoods, their living conditions, what they need, what's going on? So you've already done that?
I've driven around to other neighborhoods. I haven't really gotten out and talked to everybody, but a few people here and there. And that's what I plan to do over the next 2 months, is to get out and not only meet those that are in District 4, but to meet other people in other areas as well. Because when you're elected, although you are running for a district, you're still representing the entire city.
Answer this. Is it only, just in case I run into somebody, from the different districts as I ran into the other day down there in Groveland, they vote on all districts, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you need to meet people in all districts,
Yes,
am I
you
correct?
do. Yes,
All
you
right.
do.
Now, the issues that some of them are having, and let's be realistic. I went in the neighborhood and I spoke with people who have been there for years.
Mm-hmm.
And they have some real good issues going on.
Mm-hmm.
Even whether you win or lose, and I said this to somebody last year, you still need to go and fight for the people. Will you continue, win or lose? Will you go in these same neighborhoods and make sure that they know who you are?
Absolutely. That's what I plan to be, is a candidate for the people. You cannot be for the people if you don't get out and meet the people. The people that are under the tree are just as important as the person who is in the corporate building. And so I want to meet the business owners. I want to meet those who are what we call the low-income areas. I want to meet those in the rural areas where no one goes out and talk to them at all. I think we have to go and talk to everybody if we're going to build a better Groveland.
Okay. Now, any closing statement? We're going to give him some closing statement room, and then we'll be back at the shop.
Well, again, this is Chris Walker, and I just want to let everybody know that I am running for District 4 in the city of Groveland. My website is electchriswalker4groveland.com, and I would love to have you aboard this team, and I would love to represent the city of Groveland and the citizens of Groveland so that we can definitely become our motto, which is watch us grow.
All right. Well, thanks for your time. Township News, right back to you.
Hi, I'm Victoria from Storytime. Download the app today for All Nations TV. Get your praise on. Remember, our mission is ministry on the go.
Welcome to Township News 1. And also, we would like to thank all the other media outlets that are carrying us. Before we get started, we want to explain to you how this works for those who aren't used to it. Remember, we do all three sides, the accused, the accuser, and then we fact check. Also, remember this, when it comes to the press, they make sure that you get information that otherwise you wouldn't be getting, which then allows you to state your opinion on whatever's going on in your environment or your town or your city. And, of course, your government of the state, and then, of course, national government. Now, we have to look at it because the press do something you can't do. While you're at work, they're working for you. They make sure that what you see and what you get and what you understand, the facts are there. Now, let's go back to what the main story was. It was about Mr. Walker. So right now, we want to let you know that from the Office of the Executive Clemency, Tallahassee, Florida, the Certificate of Restoration of Civil Rights. He has his rights. The whole office, to vote. The only thing he doesn't have that is saying that he cannot own a firearm. So again, the guy was right. He did have something on his record as a criminal. As you've seen in there, he gave the cause why it is. That is on your opinion. Now, here's another fact that we dug up. And that is his name change. Yes, his name has been changed. His name has been changed from Christopher Lewis Walker, from Christopher Walker to Christopher Lewis Walker. Correction. And he got it done legally through the Circuit Court of the 9th District of Orange County. So the gentleman was correct on his name being changed. Okay, and he gave the opinion you saw in the interview of what that was, and we have the proof right here. Now, there's something else. He does have, as we found out, an honorable discharge from the service. So, with all that being the case, you saw the interview, you saw what happened in front of the interview. What we want to do right now also, as always, we state the facts. These are the facts. This is the paperwork on Mr. Walker. We want to try to always get the accused, the accuser, and then, of course, we're going to fact check every single time. Now, the only way we won't be able to fact check or get the accuser down, that's if the person who had made the statements decide and decline that they don't want to be on video or they don't want to be taped. Then you also got to wonder why then. Now, transparency has always been one of the things we went after. And in your city government, whether you're here in Florida or Texas or Miami or California or anywhere you at, you want the press to make sure they get an interview so that they can hold that person responsible on anything that they say if they're supposed to be keeping your word. You vote them in. And here's the fact. This is a fact. They work for you, not the other way around. So you should be able to know why they made a decision in City Hall on anything. And also they need to hold accountable if they bring in their personal problems in that City Hall because they don't like somebody, so that's why they did a vote that way, or they don't care too much for somebody, then they need to be held accountable for that. Transparency is the only way to be. And if you can't get someone transparent, then you got to start wondering why. And should they be elected in any kind of office if they can't be transparent? Which means they should be able to go on camera and make their statements, let you know what's going on and why they voted a certain way. And that way you hold them accountable because they work for you. Now, as we move forward, as always, we have people who email us, text us, call us, meet us on the street and say things. Now, we have some questions, and we're going to do our best to answer. We picked up the best 6 questions there was, and we're going to run through the questions. And those who are out there, if you have a way of helping us get some of the answers, we'd be more than happy to do that. And anybody else that's running for office, Florida, Baltimore, or anywhere else throughout the United States, feel free to contact us. We would love to interview you because our main thing right now is to design a platform to make it an even playing ground. So those who don't have these huge pockets and deep pockets can get out here and get their word and their message across. Work with us, everybody. And let's move this thing where we can take the finance out of this thing and get people in there that understand you and the values of you. Now, we're going to go over a couple of questions right now that was thrown at us involving Christopher Walker. Now, opening. Let's get ready to read them off. That was text, email, phone called in, and just running the street with me. A lot of people have these questions, so we leveled it down to approximately 6 questions. And one of the main questions that people asked me was, why was his history brought up in the first place? I actually told them he wasn't running at the time. But what I am going to do, because we hear all 3 sides, the gentleman that brought his history up, I'm actually going to try to ask him for an interview so that we can get you your answer. You notified us, this is what you want, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do our best to try to get an answer. Now, if he declines the interview, or if he doesn't want to, I'm sure he'll give me an explanation to why. I will inform you on the next show to let you know. Give us at least a month, or maybe less than that, because they only hold meetings twice. And we want to try to make sure that we give him an opportunity to respond. Now, the second question that apparently is, when he asks a question, is it declared definition of character? Okay? Destruction of your character, in other words. Some of you may not understand it, but it means, period, about if someone is trying to destroy your character. So what we're going to do with that is I'm going to actually get some lawyers involved, and we're going to sit and find out, is that definition of character? Now, number 2 question. They want to know, as someone approached me, is he a racist? That I don't know, but I'm looking forward when we interview him to find out, is he a racist? So I won't be able to answer that question for you. But like I said, give us a month. We have a lot of other things going on, and we'll do best to get back to you. Now, the other question, which I found kind of humorous, does Mr. Walker now have his driver's license? Is he legal? That came up when I interviewed him, and yeah, he's legal. He got his license back. Now, some other question, number 4 question is, are you going to interview the city council and some of the people who are running in Groveland? Here are the facts. We already tried that, and we're going to try again to ask them for an interview every time there's a meeting to find out why they made decisions and why there's still a block down there. Now, the ones who run it, we extend that to you. If you see this video and I can get a hold of your email, I'm going to be contacting them. And if you do see me out on the street, all you got to do is ask me, and I'm going to tell you straightforward whether or not we was able to contact them or whether or not they declined. And that will be on the next show, whether or not they decline, because as soon as possible, we're going to try to reach out to them. Now, number 5, the question 5 was, when are we going to fix the city manager issue? That I couldn't tell you. I can only tell you that we're going to try our best to get the information when it comes in. Number 6, what about the mayor's seat too? When are we going to get that fixed? That I can't tell you either. That's tied up in court. And number 6, part A, they asked how many lawsuits do this city have against it? I can only tell you I will do my best to try to get that information from City Hall. Now, as we move forward, JAPEC Community Life Magazine, Township News, if we move forward, our intent is to try to bring you the best, and I mean bring you the best in knowledge, education, and social. So what we have to do, we all have to work together. And if you got a candidate out there, if you got somebody who got a lot of information they want to talk, have them contact us. The number and the email will be below, and most of the people do know me. All you got to do is look me up and find me. We'd be happy to find you and come to you and do an interview on what you feel. And no, you don't have to be in office to get that, but your opinion matters. Remember, Township News 1, we're on the job. Thank you.